Summertime and the living is easy. I don't know about you, but it is time to kick back, put your feet up, get a cool drink, sit by a swimming pool, and enjoy the summertime. I hope we play this in the summertime because I'm recording it in the summertime.
It's probably going to be like December when it comes out in February.
Then go to a hotel and find an indoor pool. But I'm Father Joseph, and you've joined us on Restless along with Joe and Lauren Joe and Diane.
Oh, insulted.
No, but Lauren's cool too.
That's it.
This is going off the rails very quickly.
And today we are restlessly seeking the face of leisure because it's time to just kind of talk about the face of Christ, I guess.
Does leisure have a face? It would be my face.
Yes.
You are the face,
I'll be the face of leisure.
You are, Joe.
Good.
Because I think, in our world, we certainly have a lot of time off, disposable time, but is it leisure? Is it recreation? What does that mean? And did Jesus ever recreate and take leisure time? Because I think it's probably important to what it means to be a holy, healthy person. So let's talk about that. What makes leisure different than laziness?
I mean, to me, laziness is, ignoring your obligations, right? Or spending too much time doing nothing, or even too much time doing something that's, doing something, but something that's leisurely or that's not, super important, like an unwillingness to be motivated to do things which you were required to do, which you've, promised to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think leisure is more like the appropriate relaxation, as opposed to like pointless. And I would say that there's a purpose to leisure of, probably furthering or deepening your interior life and, just getting you maybe back on track or energized to pursue God in sort of whatever state of life you're in.
Yeah. That's why I like how it's called recreation, because it's literally a recreation.
Ah,
that kind of created anew. And so I guess
I never thought about that.
That's why they
Makes
call it.
sense.
Yeah, recreation. So what kind of leisure and recreation do you enjoy? Like what renews you?
Oh, me?
Joe, you're the face of
I'm the face.
You're the face of leisure.
Yes.
You should know
face
this.
of leisure. What do I do for leisure? Yeah, I mean, I do martial arts. I spend a lot of time hanging out with friends. I recently started playing volleyball with them.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not very good at volleyball, but if I'm good at anything, it's trash talk. And so I appear better than I really am, based on the way I talk. Cornhole, frisbee. I'm big on that sort of thing.
That's true. I do remember some intense can jam games in your backyard.
Yeah.
When you were younger.
Yeah. No, we take it pretty seriously.
You did.
Semi-professional, I would say, in our own minds at least.
Yeah.
You
have to understand, Joe's backyard is about 6 feet wide.
It's actually been expanded since then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They take down the
We pushed
hill,
it back, yeah.
the mountain?
Yeah, we pushed it back a little bit.
Okay. So now it's 12 feet wide.
So you can have a can gym like marathon.
Yeah, I can't admit, we're big into cornhole.
Oh, there you
Big into cornhole.
So I'm glad you call it cornhole, because when I brought that up to your pastor, Father Corey, he's like, "What the heck is cornhole?"
What does he call it?
Beanbag toss.
He also said we couldn't call the kickoff event for our summer youth group situation a barbecue because we were having hamburgers and hot dogs, and that's a cookout. And we were like, "Oh yes, Father." I love Father.
If there's
Corey
no
to
barbecue
death.
sauce, it's not barbecue.
No, I love
clearly.
that. I love that, man. So I'm not going to question it.
That's funny. Cornhole's relaxing. Yeah, cornhole's pretty relaxing.
It can be.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Definitely, that's cool.
That's fun.
You played a volleyball game before coming here today, right?
Yes, I did at a company picnic.
Was that relaxing, or were you trash talking?
I was trying to control my trash talking, not just because I was at work.
You're playing against your boss.
Well, but also because somebody brought their 6-year-old daughter, so we had to kind of be like, "All right, good serve. Yeah, you maybe get it over the net sometime." Yeah, so there was a lot of that,
No.
and then us actually trying to play around her as best we could.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah, that's rough.
Can't trash talk a 6-year-old.
You can, but you just be heartless and cruel.
Oh man.
What's your leisure?
I mean, for most people, this wouldn't be leisure, but running, I love to run. So I work from home now. Thank you, COVID. And yeah, I'm able to take a break every day, and at least 5 days out of the week, I go for a run outside. No, I don't belong to the gym anymore. It's so nice to be in nature. It's just like, it feels so good to get up because I'm sitting most of the day. Yeah, I don't take my phone with me. I don't listen to music. I just like normally pray, zone out, look at nature, enjoy it. I mean, I'm out there all 4 seasons, so even if it's snowing,
Nice. And
you know,
there's a beautiful park in Diane's neighborhood called Todd's Point.
yeah,
You go there.
yeah,
It's right on
definitely.
the water.
Yep. There's a nice, there's like a 2.5 mile running loop. So I'll do like two kind of, switch it up directions. So it's like 5 miles and very nice views.
Nice.
Yeah, so I do that. And it's really nice to disconnect, honestly, because I don't bring my phone, which can be dangerous. So my parents have had to rescue me at least like 3 times this past year in horrible thunderstorms.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I have an apt ability to choose the best times to go out for a run. But yeah, it's just great to like put things down, not have any noise. Yeah, it's a great like 45 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I also do like I like to bake. I like photography.
You like to bake?
I do.
I've never tasted the fruits of your labor.
Yes. I actually made cupcakes
That was
for
a veiled request. Maybe not so veiled.
Barely veiled, yeah.
All right, next podcast, guys.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like to bake. I like trying new recipes. I'm like, it's just it's fun to try new things. So I'm
That's
definitely
awesome.
adventurous in that sense. And then photography too. So I bought a camera. I go to the beach a lot. I'm obsessed with sunsets, flowers. And then I recently started like taking photos of people and their babies. So
Like
Cute
professionally and with consent, or like
Yeah, so
from behind
it's
a
like
bush,
a
or
creepy
from behind a park bench.
creepily,
yeah.
without their permission.
Good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That was leisurely. Is the run back to your car part of the workout after that?
It is. That's how I do both at once.
That's right.
It'll be faster if you
She
didn't run
can
5 miles
outrun-
after taking a picture of you in your car.
You can outrun any of the cops. Granted.
Yeah, exactly. I've been working on my sprinting because
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
it's not just long distance anymore.
Leaping fences and whatnot. Good.
See, I really kind of thought you were like putting out a personal ads here. It's like I enjoy sunsets and flowers and long walks on the beach and taking creepy pictures of babies.
Basically.
You're gonna find a really weird guy for that.
What would the dating app be for that? Just email in, follow Joseph and tell us.
So I'm pretty much the only one who sees these photos. So except for like I just took photos of my little 11-month-old niece for her first birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very cute.
Nice, but wait, if she's only 11 months old?
I
How does
know
she
they
have
did
her
it.
first
They did it a
birthday?
month early, so it's kind of cheating.
That's totally cheating.
What are your leisurely activities, Father?
Definitely hiking.
Yeah.
That's a big one, as I've hiked with Joe many a time, and with Diane.
Yeah.
Quite
I wouldn't
Group
call
hikes?
hikes I've done with you leisurely.
Yeah, I mean, they're more like death marches, but I mean,
they're,
like,
they're purgative, I would argue, at least for myself.
Yeah, one time you recommended a hike, and it was super hard.
I was also almost
Yeah.
killed me at least 3 times on hikes.
So yeah, if you're
At
not
least 5 or
prepared,
6.
if you're not prepared, don't ask Father Joseph for advice.
no, I'm a little nervous. I'm going hiking with some guys this summer, and one of them says to me, "So, will I be able to plug in my air mattress?
Oh, no.
Like, you realize we're backpacking. We're gonna be 8 miles from the nearest plug, and we're doing Mount Washington in New
poor
Hampshire. I don't know if he knows what he's getting himself into.
He doesn't.
Well,
So we're
at
gonna
some point
do,
it'll be too far in to turn around.
yeah, we're gonna do a couple practice hikes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, Breakneck
Yeah.
Ridge and in the Hudson Valley, and
Yeah.
See,
Break
our last
Ridge.
episode was about hope, and I would argue, and I have argued, the Father is arguably too hopeful about his salvation when we go hiking, because he doesn't seem to value very much surviving the hike. I always tell my father, I need more time on this earth, like I'm not done yet, But anyway,
Yeah. I
hiking
normally
should
like to
involve
come
all
back
4
alive.
limbs. That's my belief.
All 4 limbs?
Yeah, 2 hands, 2 feet.
Yeah, I
know.
mean, to an extent.
what other than hiking though, Father?
Other than hiking, I actually really enjoy reading. I'm working
Oh,
on.
me too. I can't believe I didn't say that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm working on the book Silence. There's a famous movie that was made about it. It's about a fictional novel about persecutions in Japan in the 1500s. Really good book.
Awesome. Yeah, I always have my head in a book, multiple books, so it's great.
Yeah, I read a lot. Of course, I play guitar.
Hmm.
That's relaxing.
Yes, you do. You sing?
Yeah. That's leisure.
He doesn't seem convinced by that.
That's relaxing. Yeah. So how much leisure then is healthy to enjoy? Like, should you do it every day, every couple days, once a week, once a month? I mean, what's your leisure
I mean,
schedule?
I guess, well, God in terms of the creation, right? I rest on the seventh day, so I would say at least once a week. And we're kind of the third commandment, remember to keep the Lord's Day holy. So for sure, at least one day, which people, I don't think that's a whole nother story. I don't think people really adhere to that in terms of, actually taking proper rest on the Lord's Day. I admit that I'm not the greatest always at, making time for leisure, especially in busy season when, I'm working ridiculous hours.
14-hour days.
Yeah. But I do, I guess I still do make time for mass, and I make time to run or to exercise, because I think that's really important.
But do you find prayer to be leisurely?
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah, when I'm stressed out.
That's great.
Sure,
I don't.
It's like, oh, okay.
I don't.
Yeah. But sometimes, like during busy season, it's like, oh my gosh, do I really have time to go to mass? And that's a bad, that's a bad state of mind to have. But I find that when I'm stressed out, I'm like, God, I need you. So it is actually like a reprieve from.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a shift from.
It's a total shift, which I think it might be different for you because you're a priest, right? So I'm like in the secular world, I'm like, people stop telling me that this is like needs to be done yesterday. So it's nice to kind of take a break. Whereas I think maybe you have more time in your day for prayer, so it becomes more laborious. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I think I do see prayer as an integral part of my job in a sense. Like, it was a vocation, of course, but like, praying for the people of God. So I want to make sure that's quality prayer. I want to make sure that I'm, mentally present, which can be a mental workout. You don't want your mind to wander. And for me, that's one of the things that I love about leisure is that your mind can wander wherever it goes. And
you're also bound to forms of prayer in the way that we are not. I mean, we have to go to Mass on Sunday. You don't have to celebrate Mass on your day off, although I know you do, but you're bound to celebrate the prelude of the hours, You're not bound to do a holy hour, but it's a pretty strong...
But I do every day.
It's also a pretty strong, like... I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's pretty strong and highly recommended practice among young priests and seminarians. Very widely adhered to, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And I don't want to make it sound like I just love praying all the time. Like that is not the case. There are some days where it's just brushing your teeth, just like running, right? Like there are some days when I'm like, before I start my run, I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is the last thing I want to do. But you just like make yourself do it. So.
And sometimes the prayer are more leisurely than others.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very, very true.
Yeah.
Anything rote or scripted is much more leisurely to me than having to actually like sort of figure it out on my own, right? Like a rosary is just more leisurely because you can kind of just follow the beads and
Really,
I think
meditate,
so.
Yeah,
it's funny. I find the opposite.
You're probably a lot better at it than I am, which is why.
Well, I find like a lot of times I guess I combine my prayer with leisure. Like hiking is for me such a spiritual experience, and
I do a lot of dog walks and rosaries. So
that's
leisurely to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely. Good exercise. With you got a new dog, right? It's not Gracie.
No, it's still Gracie.
Oh,
She's
Gracie.
still kicking, biting anyone she can.
Gracie's about 6 inches tall, and
she's a bad
Is
dog.
she?
Very bad dog.
she's one of those. Yeah,
Very bad dog.
What kind of dog?
She's half Brussels Griffon and half poodle.
Okay.
She seems to think she's like a Rottweiler or German Shepherd or something, though.
I've never seen a dog jump higher.
Oh,
she can jump like 6 feet off the ground.
She's tall. She's got long legs for a small body.
Yeah,
Big attitude.
big attitude. Yeah, she rules the house.
Mm-hmm.
So what is kind of the impact on leisure on your spiritual life? Like, do you feel like spiritually disconnected from God when you don't have leisure, or maybe too much leisure, like after a vacation you feel disconnected? Or
Yeah, I mean, if I don't have enough leisure, like I'm just thinking of those times during busy season when I don't, prayer is rushed or I skip over things. I feel like I am completely stressed out and there's no outlet. So whether or not you necessarily recognize in the moment that like, oh, have I been faithful to prayer and to, like my lifeline, which is prayer and God? Absolutely, I feel more stressed out.
Yeah, I mean, see, a lot of my like leisure time is spent with friends, because I don't really have time to see people during the week usually. So like typically Friday and Saturdays, I spend, after work it's Friday, then most of the pretty much all the day Saturday, hanging out with friends and stuff. And so like to me that's leisurely. But when I'm done, I'm always just filled with a profound sense of gratitude for that. Just gratitude that God's put so many good people in my life who actually want to hang out with me and do things together and have fun. So like that is to me spiritually energizing because I mean I've been in points in my life where I kind of didn't think that I would have deep friendships like that, where I would kind of be like the go-to group every weekend doing things together, having a good time. And the fact that I have that is just I'm just so grateful to God for it. So that's one way in which leisure certainly energizes my spiritual life.
that's good.
Yeah. What about you?
when I go on vacation, it's hard to keep up the life of prayer, and that's for me always kind of a challenge. It's interesting. Next week I'm going to Catholic Family Land. I can't say that out loud. Catholic Family Land. Corniest name ever, but a really great place. And so that's going to be a week of vacation, and I'm actually kind of excited for it because it's a new place to pray. It's a new way to pray with really fervent Catholics, and so that'll be leisure plus a spiritual renewal. And Joe's face palming right now. You got to go, man. You got to try Catholic Family Land.
I guess so.
You'll love it. You'll love it.
I just gotta rebrand the name.
They do. Yeah.
But you're right. It's sometimes it's nice to mix it up, like change of scenery.
Totally.
I do find though that like, and maybe this is a bad thing, that I'm like constantly like, I guess I like to have like a sense of mission, and sometimes I don't have that when I have too much leisure time. Like even a week of vacation, I'm like, it depends whether it's like self-focused or like if I'm giving of myself. So like I think on my heart lately is just like ways to give of myself where I feel that I am in some way doing God's will, like whatever that is.
Yeah.
When it's self-focused and it's like, I'm just living for myself and like, hanging out with which I think there's a balance, right? Of, hanging out with your friends and stuff, but like it can become too much and too self-focused to the point where or at least I lose my sense of mission, and then I get upset about that.
Yeah. Now, something I noticed in all of our ways in which we talk about leisure, none of us mentioned anything technological.
Yeah.
Do you
Technological
think
is stressful.
Right. I mean, I'm wondering, can there be leisure with technology? Like, is playing video games or surfing the internet?
I should have left that out because I actually do play video games for leisure with friends.
Do you?
Yeah, actually, that's probably the leisure that I have the most time for during the week, other than martial arts, would be that, because I can get like an hour in or whatever.
What's your game of choice?
I'm a little embarrassed to say.
I am going to laugh, but I told you Catholic Family Land.
Yeah.
Are you Dungeons & Dragons?
No. After making no. I'm actually kind of a big fan of Minecraft, believe it or not, for someone of my age. But it's a lot of fun. I've been playing it since before it was cool. Since before there were colored wood blocks. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Father. Yeah. But it's not leisurely insofar as we tend to play against each other, and I get very worked up, and animated right before bed and stuff like that. But on the flip side, it is fun just to like not have to think so much and just sort of blow off steam at the end of the day. So it can be leisurely.
Yeah.
I tend not to I don't watch a lot of TV and movies, not because I don't want to, but because like given the choice between watching TV or just spending time with friends outside, I would choose friends in a heartbeat, right? So it's not that I wouldn't do the leisurely things that were technologically related. It's just that I would choose real people over them.
Well, I think you make an important point that one of the aspects of leisure is to reconnect with others. Whether it is technology. I mean, I think if you're just scrolling through Facebook, that's not leisure. That's just wasting your time.
Yeah, it's wasting your time, and especially social media. It breeds so much anxiety, comparison. You end up leaving feeling worse than when you went on, and you're seeking sort of like, you're basically trying to fill a hole that you should be filling with God, and you're filling with all these stupid, senseless things. I mean, the only TV I watch is the Mets, which
The Mets.
Yeah, praise God, they'll win the World Series this year. But
I'm not praying for that.
I'm asking our viewers to.
We have viewers? I thought we were all
listeners.
But watching this podcast. You need to get a life. Stop watching the radio.
But there's so much crap on TV, TV, movies, and just garbage filling or polluting minds, actually. So I think you have to be super careful about what you watch and like the amount of time that you spend doing that too.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to play video games and to, I guess, watch a good TV show that's not going to kill your soul, but you need to.
My parents love the Hallmark Channel.
Okay.
They're big Hallmark movie fans, which my dad loves because there's literally no thinking involved. It's the same plot for every movie.
Same outcome
ever.
That's a problem I have because like there's a lot of shows that I want to watch, but by the time I get home at the end of the day, if I have time to watch TV, I don't want to have to pay attention or think about plots. I'll just put on like The Office or Seinfeld or something that I don't have to pay attention to because I've seen it a million times before and just zone it out. You know what I mean? But there are good things on TV to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine as long as you're not like marathoning, it gets to the point of like, we're all familiar with the term Netflix binging, so.
Yeah. So, speaking of like TV and leisure, so there's a philosopher named Joseph Pieper who wrote a very famous book called Leisure is the Basis of Culture. And he makes the point that if a culture is just basically, especially like the agrarian cultures back in the day when you had to work from sun up to sundown, and you don't have time to make culture. You don't have time to do arts or, anything that's civilized, really. It's just, your survival. But he says once you're able to shrink your time of work and actually have leisure time, that's where culture comes out from. And so, do you agree with his conclusion that leisure and culture are intimately united?
I mean, I think so, because part of the dignity of being a human being is God has given us the ability to create. So we create through sort of, creative things like photography, painting, all
Minecraft.
Exactly.
It's a very permanent structure you create.
I don't know, gardening, and that those things are beautiful, and they do help to build up culture, as opposed to just sitting in front of the TV or playing video games where you're just like consuming, you know?
But then one could say one is enjoying culture, right? Because,
That's true.
the TV is really just another form of the opera. Maybe a little lowbrow version.
Maybe.
Well, it's not as if every opera was highbrow, right? I mean, there was trashy pop culture at every point in human history.
That's very true. Yeah, a lot of the plays were not every person was Shakespeare. Not every play.
I even think about it in terms of things. Things like cathedrals. A society that is just so wrapped up in work doesn't build a cathedral. It would be almost insane to suggest it if you have to literally spend every moment of your day working to survive. And of course, like culture, cult, religion, right? They're sort of tied up concepts to some extent.
Very much so, yeah.
So, it's important to have leisure time because that's how you build real relationships, and cultures come out of those relationships, and cultures among small groups come out of those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you have a great point that leisure leads to relationships with God, with yourself, with others, and just that reaching out.
Even think about in your own life. Like a priest a priest has to be busy, but a priest who's so busy, that's constantly flying from obligation to obligation, and they never has time just to like actually hang out with his parishioners and not celebrating mass, not running like a fish fry, but just like talking to them and hang out with them. He's not. He might be energizing them spiritually in some ways, but he's not going to develop the relationships that will lead to them to trust him to actually make him more effective spiritual father.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I've always kind of grappled with that as a priest, because you see the example of people like St. John Vianney, who spent 15 hours a day in the confessional, and he didn't appear to have friends.
Right.
Maybe he did, I don't know, but certainly from the biographies I read, he was almost just superhuman, that he never relaxed. And I always feel like, oh man, like if I need to take a day off, is that okay? And there's a contemporary Catholic writer named Kevin Wells who is a great Catholic writer, but he wrote a book called The Priests We Need to Save the Church. And it was basically like, priests can never take a day off, and they have to be 24/7 available to their parishioners. And as I was kind of reading the book and seeing like, oh, I'm not living up to his standard, but is that the right standard?
Yeah, I think it's
No. It's just not. That's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Diane. That's just stupid.
You're just gonna lay it right out there.
Stupid.
But I think one of my favorite Dominicans that I listen to, Father Gregory Pine, he's on YouTube and he has a podcast. But he talks a lot about how God has created us all. Like he goes back to this constantly of like God has created all of us differently, like with a specific and a unique mission. So he gives to some, those sort of gifts that you're talking about of John Vianney for his time and for his his life and the time that he lived in. But that's not necessarily or it's not what God has for you or for other people. And so we image him in a way that no one else can and no one else will. So it's kind of just praying about that of God, how do you desire for me to glorify you in this way that is unique and that no one else is going to be able to do. It's It's super powerful, and it's also encouraging to know that I have a mission that's totally different from everyone else. And if we were all the same,
that's a great point. And I like how the church is starting to acknowledge some saints, some more recent saints who seem to live a more balanced life than some of the old saints. I think of Blessed Carlo Acutis, who was our patron, who loved playing video games and soccer.
Right.
That's a pretty balanced kid right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the idea that priests should never have a day off, and that's just crazy. Because for one thing, what you think is time off isn't time away from saving souls. I don't know what timeline we're in. So either a previous episode or a future episode, you and I talked about our respective vocation, conversion stories, and like mine is tied up in our relationship and our friendship. And had it been that you were always constantly working, and so it was always either I saw you in a Bible study or a catechism class or something like that, that would have been great. But like where I really grew was time hiking with you and other people or at youth group when you were not.
Because remember, you're hanging off a cliff when you're hiking with me.
Right. Yeah. I had to literally grow to reach the next rock.
You are praying to God right now.
No, but that's right. But like in a serious way though, like those moments of leisure, or like we come over to my house playing video games or playing pool, whatever, like, because that made me trust you, right? Because I saw you as a real person, a person with whom I could have an actual relationship and not an object or like an official of some kind, right? But also, really, I could say like, hey, Father, I was just thinking about this. Why do we do this? Or how does this work? Like those. So was that time off for you? I mean, I'm sure you weren't clocked in for it. Like I'm sure you wouldn't think of this as, oh, this is me working. But like, it doesn't mean you were away from the job of saving souls. And it just seems crazy to me to say that a priest has to always be in the confessional or always be celebrating mass or always be running from this appointment to that appointment. It's like, no, priests are human beings who need to be able to rest, but also like they're still saving. It's a vocation, not a job. They're saving souls no matter what they're doing if they're doing it right.
Right. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I mean, same goes for family life too, right? Like that's why it's super important, I think, on Sundays especially, and hopefully every day, at least at night, for parents who are in our culture, especially in the Northeast, where we're obsessed with work and working so many hours, to take time for your family, because parents, I mean, the house, the family is the domestic church, so to be sort of forming them in the faith.
So I've often wondered that, and this is part of why I've always kind of wondered about leisure as a priest, is because when you're a mom or dad, you don't get a day off, right? You're a mom or dad for 18 years. I mean, like there's no like, all right, Saturday, I'm taking off.
Yeah. But I mean, when you take a day off as a priest, you're still a priest, so.
Yeah, you still say mass and still.
Well, I mean, like, do parents get to like clock out of their shift as parent? No, but are they working, quote unquote, as a parent in the same way when they are playing board games with their kid as when they are like disciplining them or helping them with homework?
True. That's true.
So it's like the thing of the stereotype of the sort of workaholic absentee dad, and it's like, well, okay, you provided for your family. That's important. That's good. Maybe you had to do it in that way, but like, did you get to know your kids? Do they love you? Do they trust you? Do they know they could come to you? Could they come to you? Like, do you know them? Could you recognize that things are going wrong in their life because you know what it looks like when they're going right in their life? So like, proximity and time are important, and that just can't be work. It has to be leisure.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I hear a lot of divorced families, especially the dads who don't have custody, often talking about quality time. When my kid comes over for the one weekend a month, I've got to make sure we spend every last second. But really, it's quantity.
Yeah,
the quantity of just leisure time, because that's when those unscripted conversations happen, and the real life just happens. So, last question then: did Jesus take time? Did he and how did he recreate and do leisure? Because I think his example would be the best.
Well, I think Father Joseph, you and I were talking about this at the beginning or before the podcast, but Wedding of Cana was the first thing that came to my mind. Like he made time to go to these parties, and
those parties were 7 days long.
Yeah,
I mean, that's no joke.
Uh-huh.
And he also seemed to spend a lot of time eating with friends, reclining and eating with friends, right? I mean, and I'm sure a lot of that was catechetical, and but I mean, probably not all of it, because again, you follow people whom you trust and who you have relationships with. So so like John was his friend.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Peter was his friend.
How great would that be, just to sit and have like dinner with Jesus? Like,
yeah.
I wish there was a recording.
Well, I mean, John's head was literally on Jesus's chest at the Last Supper. I mean, I've had a lot of professors who I've liked. I've never done that. I mean, like that's a very intimate, close friendship, and that doesn't come from only ever working, right?
That's why it's always been my belief that John the Apostle was like 12 or 13.
Oh, really?
Jesus. That's my belief, because I think it's just too weird if it's like a 25-year-old leaning on Jesus' chest.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's always been my belief. Plus, he lived to a ripe old age.
Yeah,
and he was very innocent.
How old you lived probably isn't determined by how young you used to be. Right? I'm sure that follows exactly, but
he outlived all of the other apostles.
Chronologically, he lived a long time, sure.
Yeah, he did, around one.
No, but I mean, Jesus, I would say Jesus definitely did things that weren't just his public ministry, right? I mean, the wedding feast wasn't his public ministry, but he still performed miracles at it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I love when Jesus would go off into the mountains alone to pray, because he needs that alone time too. And I think we gloss over that sometimes, that here's this person who's pouring his life out in service, but he needs to be refilled by a connection with his Father.
I mean, his apostles did fish in his presence, as I remember, didn't they? I mean, was it? I'm trying to think now.
Oh yeah, it was one time Jesus falling asleep in the boat.
Right. So I mean, he could. There's no reason he had to have them fish. I mean, he's God, right? I mean, he could have found a way to, but that was still something they did for whatever reason, probably just to support themselves, but also because there's a thing, to do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
yeah. You might as well, I guess. I don't know. Well, I hope you've had a relaxing last half hour. But thank you for listening to Restless as part of your leisure today. And make sure to go and do some leisure, to do it right, to make sure that we do have those relationships that we reconnect with, to make sure that we live a balanced life, not being lazy or wasting time on things like that are just sap our soul, but really that recreate us, because that's what recreation is all about, building relationships and building our culture. You can find us on Veritas Catholic Network, 1350 AM, and wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in next time.